Morning and welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Thursday, Dalad Adar Beis, the fourth day of the second Adar. Let's begin with tzedakah. Gedola tzedakah shemekareves esagula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. Today we begin chapter 35. And in chapter 35, the Alter Rebbe begins explaining the purpose. Why do we need to do what we are doing to do? And more specifically, why is it important to have the mitzvahs that involve action? And Alter Rebbe begins with asking the question of what is the purpose of the struggle of the Beinoni? What does that mean? We explained earlier in the Tanya about there is the tzaddik and the Beinoni and the Rasha. We have, as we explained many times, we have the godly soul and the animal soul. A godly soul is pure godliness, desires only to be one and connected to God. An animal soul, the animalistic soul, is very selfish and has desires and temptations and drives and urges, which is not good, dark urges, temptations that are not godly. And the neshama comes down, the soul comes down into the body. And now the soul, there's the struggle between the godly soul and the animal soul. Both want to conquer the body. And indeed, there are some very few tzaddikim, righteous people, who they are successful to refine the body, or to refine the animal soul, not only to overcome the temptations, but they are able to transform that, to use to harness the animal soul and the urges. It should become urges to godliness rather than to not the things that are not godly. And by the tzaddik, by the righteous people, those few people, for them, we can understand why the soul comes down. There is a purpose. The purpose is to transform the animal soul. So all of the powers, all of the passion that the animal soul has is now becoming as tools into serving Hashem. The tzaddik does not have any more urges to do anything else but serve God. Doesn't have any temptations for material things. So this is the tzaddik. However, the rest of us, the vast majority of people, do have urges and temptations. And although it is possible, and many people do, that they control it and they don't act on the urges, but even those who are successful to control what we call the garments of the soul, the garments are the thoughts, the speech, and the action, they still have thoughts coming to their mind and urges that come, and they constantly struggle in their entire life. And that is the question. Why? Why is life like a never-ending journey, a never-ending struggle? What's the point? And it can get the person to be hopeless, thinking I'm trying, I'm working and working, and I don't see the result. I don't see my animal soul changing. I wake up and I have the urges. Of course, it may change from youth. When you're young, your temptations are different than when you get older, but still the animal soul wants to has its temptations, its urges, and that is the question. What is the goal? What is the purpose? Are we working for nothing entire life? And Alter Rebbe is going to explain. the importance that there is, the fact that we bring down God through our mitzvahs of action. Even though we do not transform it, we bring down godliness in there, in the physical world, through the mitzvahs of action. And Alter Rebbe starts this chapter by starting to explain the verse that the Tanya is based on, which is Kikorei v'lecha adava ma'oid beficha belvavcha la'aseisoi. It is near to you, in your mouth and in your heart, to do it, which refers to this thought and the speech and the action. But the way the Torah says, it doesn't say that it's close to you. In other words, this is what Moses is speaking to the Jewish people, telling them to follow God's ways, to follow the Torah. It's close, it's near. You can do it. But the way it sounds, the verse, is not. We're talking about that just as three separate things. You have to serve Hashem with these three separate ways: by action, by thought, by speech, and by action. But the way it sounds, la'asoisoi, to do it, refers to the things that is mentioned before, meaning that the whole purpose is to do it. It is close to you in your mind, in your thoughts, in your mouth, but ultimately, what is the goal? Is to do it. La'asoisoi, to do it. And that is what is going to focus, to explain the why. Why is it important? Why is that so important? The mitzvahs of action, to take the tefillin, to wrap the tefillin, to take a coin, to give tzedakah, to light the candles on Shabbat. All of these mitzvahs of action, why is that so important? So let's begin chapter 35 in the Tanya. Says the Alter Rebbe, V'hinei, let us elucidate still further the term that you may do it. In the verse, for the matter is very near to you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it. Whereas mentioned, the climax of the verse is its emphasis on action. So that we need to understand. So first, Alter Rebbe goes to explain something else. Let us also understand, in a very small measure, the purpose of in creating Beinanim. As I said, the Beinanim is the intermediate person, who's not a tzaddik, he's not transforming his animal soul, but is in control of it. What is the purpose of creating such a creature, which is the vast majority of us are able to reach to that level? To be and remain forever on the level of Beinanim. For, as explained in chapter 14, the souls of the Beinanim are usually incapable of rising to the level of tzaddik through their own will and effort. They were created to be Beinanim. So what is the purpose? Also, what is the purpose of their soul's descent to this world being clothed within an animal soul, deriving from the klippos and sitra acha, on the other side, the unholy side, the very antithesis of the divine soul. So the divine soul goes and vests itself, it clothes itself into the animalistic soul. What is the purpose? Since they will not be able to banish the animal soul throughout their lives, nor even dislodge it from its place in the left part of the heart. Meaning, by the Beinoni, you always are going to have the animal soul alive and kicking there. And it's going to bring up some not healthy thoughts. So that you cannot dislodge it from its place so that no evil imaginings rise from it to the brain. As we said, the Beinoni does have temptations coming out to his brain. Yes, he pushes it away right away, but it's still coming up. And the reason why is because the essence of the animal soul is not changed by the Beinoni. Inasmuch as in the Beinoni, the essence of the animal soul derived from the klipa, from the shell that covers godliness, this remains in its full strength and potency as at birth. The only thing is, what does the Beinoni does control is the fact that he's in full control of the garments of the soul, meaning the thought, the speech, and action. Except that its garments, meaning its forms of expression as evil thought, speech, and action, do not clothe themselves in their body, as mentioned above in chapter 12, when the Alter Rebbe explains that by means of constant battle with his animal soul, the Beinoni prevents the budding evil of this soul from expressing itself in thought, speech, and action. However, since the Beinoni succeeds only in suppressing the garments of the animal soul, but can never, despite all his efforts, he can never effect any change in the essential evil nature of the animal soul itself. So the question arises, what is the point? Why are we having this never-ending struggle? Vimkein, lama ze yodu nishmeiseyem lo'olam hazeh liga lorik chas v'sholem lilochem kol yemeihem ima yetze v'lo yachlu lei. Why then did their soul descend to this world to strive in vain, God forbid, waging war all their lives against their evil inclination, yet never being able to vanquish it? The Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, once gave a metaphor. He said there was once a king that had workers and working in the field and working with the, what do you call the special thing that he cuts the wheat, and working all day long in a sunny day. And one day he calls one of his workers and tells him, listen, I have an offer for you. You can stay in my comfortable palace, and all day long just do the motions that you're doing in the field. You're going to be the sun is not going to be cooking on you, and just I'll pay you the same thing. So he did it. He was very happy. After a day of doing it, he says to the king, Your Majesty, I'm sorry, I cannot do it. He says, why not? He says, because I work, I do the motions, but I don't see any results. I don't see the fruit of my labor. And that is the question here also. The neshama goes down. It vests itself into the physical body. And we would think that the neshama would be able to, by fighting and struggling, would be able to change the animal soul, but it never happens. We still wake up the next morning, and we may still have those temptations. That is the question. Says the Alter Rebbe, ותהי זויס נחמסם, לנחמם בכפליים לתושיע, ולשמח ליבם בהשם אשריכם איתם מתוך תירוסם ועבודסם. Let this forthcoming explanation be their solace to comfort them in a double measure of aid and to gladden their hearts in God, who dwells among them in the Torah and divine service. Meaning the explanation will show them how to find comfort and joy in the godly light that abides within them when they study the Torah and when they engage in the service of God. So this is what the Alter Rebbe is going to explain in this chapter and the next few chapters, explaining what is the benefit, what do we see of our actions, our mitzvahs that we do, even though our animal soul is not transformed completely, but we do have the positive result of this work. This is the end of today's shir. Mitzvah Hashem. We'll see you tomorrow. Bezat Hashem.